So welcome to everyone for joining us for today's webinar with BB&T, now Truist, entitled How to Budget Your Business During a Crisis. I am Jill Parsons, the President and CEO of the Chamber of Commerce of the Mid-Ohio Valley. And also from the Chamber is Nicole Gwynn, our Membership and Events Specialist. And I want to thank Nicole for coordinating today's event. Right now, we have all the attendees on mute and ask that you would jot questions in the chat feed, and Nicole will monitor those. And then we'll also allow time at the end for Q&A, for open Q&A. So joining us today are Christy Elliott. She is the Market President for BB&T, now Truist, and Stacy Vinegar, the Market Leader for BB&T, now Truist, who oversees the downtown Parkersburg branch. So welcome, Christy and Stacy, and we'll turn it over to you now.
Great. Well, thank you so much, Jill and Nicole, for working with us. We had tried to do this presentation, had envisioned doing it, I think, in May, and then we punted to summer, hoping that we could be in person. And when we realized that that wasn't going to happen, we punted again to November. So we had plenty of time to make sure we were up to speed in delivering this on a virtual basis. So really, really appreciative of all of the accommodation work that you did working with BB&T, now Truist. I'm Christy Elliott. I'm the Market President in Charleston and Parkersburg. So I cover what my territory looks like is really from Marietta, Ohio, down 77 into Charleston. And in Charleston, I pick up 119 and go down into Boone, Logan, Mingo counties, really down into about South Williamson, Kentucky. So I have a pretty big strip of clients that I serve in those 7 counties or so that make up my territory. I've been with the bank about 16 and a half years now, served in a variety of capacities, and have been working directly in the Parkersburg market through much of my career. Early on in my career, I was in some ancillary products and services that we offer at the bank. Took a position that was more permanent in Charleston, and then in 2018, I was asked to cover it from the commercial standpoint as well. I am so thrilled to have with me today and on part of my team, Stacy Vinegar, and I'll let her introduce herself right now.
Good, thank you, Christy. I'm Stacy Vinegar, and although I'm new to BB&T, now Truist, I've only been with the company since July. I'm not new to banking or the area. I am a hometown girl, a graduate of Ohio University, so go Bobcats. And I'm thrilled to be partnered now with Truist, and I'm really looking forward to everything that we're moving to from BB&T, now Truist. I think that they waited so long to put this on our agenda to get me up and running with everybody. So I think it kept getting punted along. So I could be here and help Christy really, lead the team and lead the area businesses to how to manage our business during these times of crisis.
I thought that I would start by just sharing with everyone on the call a little bit about Truist. Many of you are likely familiar with BB&T. We've been in the market here in West Virginia a little over 20 years. And the announcement of the merger with SunTrust left lots of questions, I think, for everyone in the market. And Stacy and I really just wanted to make sure that we were spending a little bit of time today sharing with you what Truist stands for. At Truist, we really believe that we stand for better. And our purpose is to inspire and build better lives and communities. We do that by focusing in on our mission of helping our clients, teammates, and stakeholders. We would love to say that, we are the bank of choice for everyone, and our, purpose is to bank everybody in the United States. But that is not what drives us every single day. What drives us is to make sure that we're partnering with organizations like the Chamber to be able to help our communities and to be able to help the businesses that support our communities so that we can all be better together. And that really is derived out of the core values of Truist: being trustworthy, caring, operating as one team, celebrating successes, but most importantly, making sure that we're focused on the happiness, not just of our clients, but also of internally our teammates, and really just making sure that we are doing the right thing, not just something that makes the corporation a little bit of extra money. And I think that's what's so important to Truist, and to all of the teammates that we support. So when you think about what we've done as we've come together as Truist in December of 2019, shortly after that, we faced a really, really unprecedented situation with COVID-19. And that was really a time that we knew we had to live up to what our purpose and mission was. And through that time, we've donated $50 million back into the community. $1 million of that has gone to Johns Hopkins. Some has gone to the CDC to help with research of the COVID-19 virus. We've sent money to our local United Ways, above and beyond what we typically contribute, and several other organizations throughout our footprint. We were also very active in the PPP loan program back in the spring when that first rolled out. Altogether, we were one of the top lenders in the nation, and we did about $13 billion to about 80,000 different clients. And those were ways that we were able to adapt quickly, to put products in place to be able to help our clients and help our communities. And we're very proud of what we were able to accomplish. It's so early into our new branding as Truist. What Stacy and I are going to share with you today, while it's called the Small Business Recovery Guide, this is a great resource that we pulled from our website. And the link is going to be at the back of the presentation materials, where you have access to click on all of the links in the program as you walk through the different steps. And as you'll see on the screen, these will be the steps that we're going to walk you through. And you should have received 2 attachments from Nicole prior to the start of the meeting. One is the PowerPoint presentation. The other is a workbook that Stacy and I will refer to throughout the meeting. The first thing that you're going to want to do as you're starting to recover from the pandemic and really take a look during this crisis, let me interrupt my own train of thought there for just a moment to say, if you have questions throughout the presentation, please feel free to use the chat box, raise your hand, and then like Jill had said, we will also have questions and answers at the end. But if something's not clear during the middle, please stop me. So the first thing that we're going to focus on today is zeroing in on the customer and the customer's behavioral changes. When you think about how your life has changed, I have been working in my home office in my basement since March. I'm not going out. I'm not walking across the street to the cafe like I used to grab a quick lunch. I'm not seeing people. So when I look at myself and how my habits have changed, as a business owner, you really need to zero in on your particular clientele and how their behaviors have changed. A lot of that's going to lead to looking at the pricing that you're offering, because this is really a journey back to a new economy. And some of the actions that you can take as you are going through this, evaluate the impact on demand and preferences. So making sure that you're understanding exactly how COVID has impacted your customers. You may assume something, but until you begin talking to your clients and really understanding, you won't have that full knowledge of the demand or the impact on the demand. There's some great resources here, some free resources such as SurveyMonkey, if you're not familiar with that. Again, I would encourage you to click the link, and you may be able to survey your clients to find out some information that you don't know. Obviously, if you are in a company where you have lots of face-to-face traffic, if you're a restaurant, or you're going to be able to see at how your traffic flow has changed. Do you need to alter hours, or do specials, or have different opportunities that your clients can have in order to seek the product that they're looking for? And then you're going to want to consider your channel preferences. So if your traffic flow has dropped, what are you doing in order to increase your sales or stabilize your sales from looking at online? Are you using social media? Are you able to accept payments online? A lot of clients still preferred not to be able to sell products online or accept credit cards online. And that's something that we've seen a big change in during this period of time. Measures that you'll want to consider are to examine your communication strategy. Recognize how your customers have changed in the way they want to hear about your business, because that's most important. And what offering? We have so many emails coming at us now that were sometimes just a drop into the office to say hello. So clients are being solicited a lot through email. What other opportunities may you have? Have you considered a direct mailing? I personally got an offer in the mail the other day. It came looking like a early Christmas card, and I was so excited to have a piece of mail, and it was handwritten, and it turned out it was an invitation to a local small business. So those are just some things that you'll want to re-examine. And then lastly, revisit your pricing structure. So what value are you providing to your clients during this time? Did you have pricing that was bundled? And for instance, for every 6 times they came into the store, they got something free on their 7th visit, and now they're not coming into the store. So maybe that bundle isn't going to work. Or potentially there's an option to bundle some products that maybe didn't really work together in our pre-COVID life, but do fit really well together now. As you'll see on the bottom of this slide, there is a reference to the pricing strategy PDF, which is available. That is in the second attachment that Nicole had sent out to you, called the workbook. And in that is a great PDF that helps you walk through and answer any questions that you have on pricing. In the interest of time, and so that we don't get kind of caught in the weeds, Stacy and I are available. That's why we wanted to share our contact information with you. As you're reviewing the workbook, if you have questions or you need some advice on how to answer questions, please don't hesitate to reach out to Stacy and I. We're happy to help you work through those workbook items. So,
all right. So planning is probably one of my favorite things to do. And I think just like when you originally started your business, you came up with all sorts of scenarios. What if no one walks through my door? What if no one hears about me? So I think now it's really time to revisit those same scenarios and adjust them accordingly to COVID. No one expected for us to live through a pandemic, let alone 9 to 10 months after the fact. We're still dealing with certain restrictions. So how has your business changed during those restrictions? And I think it's important that you really do take the time to ask yourself, how is your business affected, and how are you prepared to keep your business relevant? So just like Christy mentioned, are we utilizing social media? Are we bundling packages together to really draw in business? In your workbook, we did include a scenario planner. So I really do encourage you to spend some time working through those. Reach out to Christy and I. Come up with 3 to 5 different scenarios and really work through them and how your business and really work through how your business would be should a new stay-at-home order go into place. If you know, what are you going to consider should a new stay-at-home order go into place, and what's your plan of attack if all of that happens? Make sure you're reflecting on your original business plan. Ask yourself, how far are you willing to go for this business, and what am I willing to do? Talk to your friends and your family, and know from a personal perspective, what am I willing to do to keep this business open? And don't forget your own personal needs in that. You know, I think that those are all things that are definitely important.
Just like Stacy said, working off of that scenario planner is a great way for you to re-examine your cash flow of the company during COVID. It probably it has had a big impact on your cash already set aside for the company. So how are you going to be able to generate more cash flow in order to meet your future scenarios, especially if we are faced with a second shutdown, which seems to be imminently looming above us? I always recommend that our clients are keeping their finger on their cash pulse, and knowing where you are from a cash standpoint is really the only way that you're going to know where your company stands. A lot of people say cash is king. I prefer to say that cash is queen, but knowing where your cash is really the only way that you're going to be successful. Know your funding options. Cash is not just cash on hand, but it's cash that you can get available. And partnering with your local financial institutions, partnering with the Small Business Association or the Small Business Development Centers, all of those folks can help you look for different funding options. Perhaps the first part of 2020, you made a very big investment in equipment into your company, and you used cash. And now your cash is tight. It's highly possible that we could finance that equipment and give a cash injection back into the company. So your bankers and your partners can certainly help you in finding creative ways to get your cash in your hands during this time. And don't forget to lean on your working capital. Take advantage of any payment terms that you have with any of your vendors. For example, if you have a supplier that your terms are net 30 and you're currently paying them in 5 days, you may be able to extend that time out to 20 or 25 days, which will help you retain the cash in the business without being in violation of any terms or creating any additional charges to the business. And just like Stacy said, as you're considering through your cash flow, you want to revisit your original vision. Where were you going? How close are you to where you wanted to be? And do you need to take a detour? Have things changed? And if they have, that's okay. You just need to recognize what has changed. That's why you should also review your business plan. There is a template in the workbook, again, on your business plan, and some tips to how to write the business plan and then how to adapt the business plan. So see what areas have been impacted by COVID and see what we can do to help you through that. It's really, really important that you use your community resources. I've mentioned, you can talk to your bankers, you can talk to Jill and Nicole. They have lots of suggestions. You can talk to the SBA. You can, talk with CPAs, attorneys, fellow businessmen or women that you have contacts with. But there's a lot of other resources available, particularly as it relates to COVID. And the CDC is a really good place to just make sure you understand what's coming out. And I'm hearing lots of different things, but what is the CDC saying? The last thing that I would just kind of talk to you about is the fact that the cash flow evaluator that is listed here in the bottom right of the slide, there is a link in the resource pages that will take you to that. It is not something that is printable because it's an active scenario. And you can log into that through the link provided at no cost to you and really plan out your cash flow using some of these scenarios that we've spoken about earlier.
All right, so moving forward, mid or post-COVID, obviously that looks completely different to all of us as business owners. We recently reopened our lobbies, and what we do for our clients has stayed the same, but that looks completely different now. Plexiglass is up, masks are required. And although all of those changes are somewhat uncomfortable, communicating the reasons why are absolutely the foremost important to your customers. Letting them know why we're limiting the amount of people that we have in our facility at one time, why we're mandating those masks and following protocols is also important. Things to also consider is just evaluating who can work from home. What does that look like? What's required of them? I know Christy is currently working from home, but I myself am in the office. And Christy knowing what's required of her and that it's okay to still shut it down when it comes to be 5 o'clock at night, she needs to know is okay. I think when all of us are working from home, knowing when the shut-off time gets a little bit pushed back. I know Christy and I have had many conversations where she has a hard time shutting it off because there isn't a place to go to work anymore. So having those conversations with your teammates and even your clients or your customers to say, hey, I may be working from home, but that doesn't mean I'm always available to you, is really key. Another thing that I really want everyone to consider is fraud. I see fraud day in and day out in my job as a retail banker. And, with all disasters comes some sort of relief fund. And it's really important that you are monitoring what's going on in the world around you. And any questions that you have, don't ever hesitate to reach out to your banker or any state or local official. We don't want to see anyone fall victim to a fake relief fund when the answer is literally just right down the corner or across the street from them. So really think about yourself as the business owner and think about your employees as we begin to move into and adjust to this new way of living.
As Stacey talked about, fraud is definitely changing, especially as we look to adapt the digital technologies during this time. I can think of so many organizations that I am involved in. Actually, just at 11 o'clock today, I was elected president-elect for my local Rotary Club. So I will be taking that over in July of 21. And one of the things that we've done through Rotary in our weekly online meetings was think bigger and think broader in terms of the scope of speakers, because we no longer had to recruit someone to come into Charleston to speak. They could speak from literally anywhere in the world. So we've really embraced those digital technologies and able to look for speakers. The other thing that I think about is what you're able to do in terms of reach. And Trent, I'm going to just use you as an example. You no longer have to worry if you can do the work potentially on a client in Texas. And maybe you didn't go to Texas before, but now you're able to solicit business there because you have the technology. The teams in all across the states, all across the world are used to having these Zoom meetings now, and no longer is physical distance a barrier. So when we look at the digital technology and how we can maximize use of technology to minimize physical contact, the opportunities are really broad. Make sure that you're also maximizing your social media accounts. Those have become more critical during this time, is to make sure that you're staying front and center with all of your clients, again, able to reach a broader base. And then look for the technologies that keep your names front and center. I know I get daily emails from the chamber, and I love it because all of these businesses are doing so many different diverse things, and it's creating ideas. It's things that you can piggyback on top of, but it's how these companies are keeping their name top of mind. So I encourage you to do that. If you are in any type of retail business especially, but make sure that you are taking the plunge into e-commerce. Depending on the type of business that you're in, it can look very different, but it's definitely something that that you'll want to make sure that you're understanding and adapting. With that comes boosting your cash flow electronically. So we talked a lot about cash as queen just a few minutes ago, but how else can you maximize the collection of cash? Are you accepting merchant through online? Are you allowing clients to ACH into your account? Are you ACH debiting clients' accounts for payments? How are you converting live checks that you get? Are you having to still have someone come into the office and open the mail and take those checks to the bank? Maybe there's a way that we can capture those checks electronically, depending on how many checks you get. If you're in a medical billing company, you might consider something like a lockbox, where you're no longer required to have someone opening the envelopes, that you have those sent to a collection center and all of that stuff is done for you. So lots of different ways that you can boost your cash flow electronically. And then running a digital office. One of the hardest things that we had to figure out how to do back in the spring, when nearly 75% of the bank's employees went to virtual working, is how do we still communicate and share documents in a safe and secure way? And running cloud-based document storage is really key. That way you no longer have to be in the office and in the same vicinity to have your employees. I'll use an example of a client that I have who's really embraced this during this time. It's a radiologist company, and it has recently hired radiologists across the United States, because the radiologists no longer have to come in and hold up the x-ray to look at it. It's all digital, and it doesn't matter where they're sitting, in Charleston, West Virginia or Denver, Colorado, they're able to do the work. They're also able to have varying office hours, which has allowed this company to expand from a traditional sort of 12 hours of reading into a 24 hours of reading. So it's really been an interesting transition. So hopefully these are just a few ideas that help you think of ways that you can help your company during this time.
All right, so let's face it, sales are inevitably what's going to drive our business to be successful. And without them, we're not going to be standing in business for long. And it's really going to be a matter of how are we adapting to the ever-changing economy and world and environment that we live in. So, I mean, I think that we all have to look at different things as we're moving forward, and what really is important to us, and what steps are we willing to take. And all good things come with an action plan. So in your workbook, there is a checklist to help you kind of walk through that and how that looks for your individual company. You know, are you using social media like Christy said? Are we making changes with how we deliver our goods and services? You know, I can't think of a restaurant or a grocery store that now isn't doing curbside pickup or delivery service for you. And sometimes making those small changes with your platform of business is really what it takes to be successful and to have that long-term growth, because growth is inevitably what makes us more attractive to investors and customers and even employees as we move forward in today's environment. I know me personally, I never thought in a million years I would have groceries delivered or sushi delivered from here in Parkersburg. I mean, New Yorkers, of course, have been doing it for years, but never here in Parkersburg, West Virginia, did I think groceries would be left at my doorstep. But I'm very excited for what it has done for our economy. And I'm very proud to say that being in a small town, we've seen those changes be successful, and businesses have stayed opened and they've remained relevant. And I think that showing our community that we're all willing to make those small changes really provides, loyalty to businesses as well. They're willing to make sure that their pricing has stayed on point as things have changed, and that everybody can get the goods and services that they need. And they're willing to, make that service free to a lot of Americans, and that they're not being charged double because now groceries and food are being delivered to their house, because we have to feed our families and take care of our neighbors. So it's exciting to me to see that we can make it all happen here at a small level.
So the last little bit that we want to talk about today is really adapting and experimenting. And let's face it, at some level, this is really the entrepreneurial spirit that got us all started in the first place. And it's not often that we have the opportunity to just say, you know what, I'm going to try to see what delivering groceries in Parkersburg, West Virginia looks like. And then it's wildly successful. So this is really the time that we get to find that silver lining. The road to recovery is not a straight shot, regardless of what anybody might want you to believe that it will be. So it's going to be a little bumpy. There's going to be a few hurdles. And now is the time to just be very adaptable and experiment. You can look for trends, see what's happening, talk to people within your company to see how things are changing in their personal life and what they're doing. That's where some of those ideas can be inspired by. Talk with your fellow partners, talk to your competitors. I know a lot of people think, bankers never talk. They're all, after each other all the time. And that could not be farther from the truth. I have constantly been texting my banking partners or at different competitor banks throughout the whole crisis saying, hey, what are you guys doing on this? How are you handling lobby reopening? Who all is in your office? Is your whole staff back? And just trying to make sure that we're doing the right thing for the community, because it's so much bigger than just one person of themselves. One of my favorite things in these links and with this presentation is the Inspired Business Series. And it talks about different companies and different organizations and what they have done to overcome this interesting time. And some of it's worked and some of it hasn't. So again, at the end of the presentation, that resource page will link you to these business interview series. And then make sure that you are exploring new channels, that you're spreading any new initiative that you have. Tell your mother, tell your banker. If you have a banking partner and you're getting ready to go into a new segment or try something new, tell your partners, because they're going to be able to spread the news and let you know what they're hearing in the community. And I think that's just a really, really good reminder to have. So I want to flip through to one more page so you can see these resources here at the end of the presentation. I encourage you to take a look at them, particularly as it relates to fraud. We see that happening so much right now. And I just want to make sure everyone is aware of it and ways to protect yourself. And then here you can see the inspired businesses that I just talked about. And this very last one is that cash management evaluation tool. So please check through the resources. If you have any questions or getting them loaded, have any problems, don't hesitate to reach out to me or Stacy, and we're happy to help you. So with that, that concludes our presentation, and we've got some time left for questions and answers, and would love to have the dialogue with you. I'm going to stop sharing the screen at this point too.
Great information, ladies. So I loved the part about obviously talking to professionals, your peers, or your trade associations that you belong to. And I'm sure both for Terry and Trent, you do belong to trade organizations, but then also you're members of the Chamber of Commerce. And so for us, I think the predominant thing all along is that, and I know this phrase is overused a lot, we are not in this alone. No business has been an island in the pandemic, having to maneuver through this by yourself. And so I've been really impressed with the best practices and other types of information that we've gathered from our chamber members. And so you think, well, you know, I'm an architectural firm, I'm a survey firm, I deal mostly with business to business relationships, but I'm always surprised what best practices from hospitality, or best practices from a restaurant or retail or education partners, whoever those might be, can sometimes be very quickly adapted and applied to the entirety of the chamber membership. And so if you do have a challenge or an issue and you're like, you know, Jill, how do we address this, or how can we tackle this type of uncertainty, please feel free to share that. We always keep these types of conversations in confidence with our chamber members, unless they want us to reach out to fellow chamber members to explore options and opportunities to see what other people have done. But that's been the biggest thing. And then obviously monitoring for the latest changes. I was sitting in a meeting on Monday, actually my Rotary on Monday, and somebody said, oh, the governor just announced we're going down to only 10 people can meet in person. And so we're all sitting there in that meeting thinking, oh, great. Now, how does that affect every one of us in our businesses? Well, it turns out it was, I hate to use this term as well, fake news. Somebody had misheard something. So we're all hustling back to our office to think, how do we now have to adapt everything again now to only 10 people being in our places of business, gatherings less than 10 people, etc. Well, it was not true. At least it was not true as of Monday, and it's not true today sitting here on Thursday, November the 19th. Not saying that it won't go into effect, but all of us then were scrambling thinking, okay, here's a new parameter that we have to operate under, and how do we manage that with the information that we have sitting at that point in time. And so for those of you too, Trent, have you guys explored anything internationally? I know a lot of businesses have thought, you know, historically I can only do business in my neck of the woods, but opportunities to do things on an international basis, we can obviously get you in touch with West Virginia Development Office, who has lots of relationships on the international basis and can help with those types of things.
Well, we haven't considered that, but how exciting would that be? Mm-hmm. You look at some of these magazines and they have all these fantastic buildings from the other side of the world. So I think their codes must be a little more lenient than what they are around here. But no, I hadn't considered that. We actually, when I joined the MOV, I spoke with the partners in the firm, and we are registered in the state of West Virginia, and so as well as Kentucky, but not on the other side of the world. So I have to, I guess that'd have to be on the other side of the world. It could be north or south of us, but no, we'll have to figure that out. That could be exciting.
I think in today's day and age and the parameters that we're working within, I think even just thinking about business in my backyard, now business in the global backyard, I think is a real possibility depending on what good or service that you can provide and how you can adapt that to a different audience. And so obviously we have lots of relationships that can help with that.
Fantastic.
So budgeting. For business plans that you're getting from clients right now for projects and different things, are you getting several scenarios of budgets that from folks, kind of if COVID continues in its current capacity for the next 3 months, here's what our budget for 2021 might look like, or if it miraculously ends by December 31st, here's what the budget looks like. Talk to me a little bit about what you're seeing from some of the financials from your customers.
Yes, Jill, that's an excellent question. We are definitely seeing usually 2 to 3 different scenarios. All scenarios assume that nothing will change through first quarter 21. I think back, to the spring of 2020, even into the summer. I think a lot of us were holding on that, okay, 2020 is going to be gone, and come January 1st of 21, it's all going to be a distant memory. And as the calendar continues to get closer and closer to that date, reality is starting to head in. So most clients are assuming, that COVID kind of remains as is today, worsening, but maybe that we're at that peak of that worsening through first quarter. Some of them are projecting, into the first half of 21. And then a lot of them are just saying, 21, while we might get a vaccine, by the time it gets distributed and by the time it's really safe, they're assuming it's really going to be 22 before things are going to be normal again. And I think that's a pretty good estimate of what we're seeing, in lots of different industries. Confidence in traveling, hospitality was obviously hit very hard during this, and they're struggling desperately. So I do think that as we're headed into 21, using a more cautious assumption that hopefully we don't have to experience a shutdown. Worst case scenario is that we do experience another 6 to 8 week shutdown. I was working yesterday with an optometrist company who had to be shut down for 6 weeks in the spring, and they are actually planning for 21 another 6 week shutdown. They just decided to take the most conservative approach in their budgeting headed into next year because of where we are with the spike. So, we are working with our clients, as I know all of the financial institutions are, in just understanding exactly how COVID has impacted the business, because there are some businesses that are doing really well right now. There are some businesses who are, kind of doing okay, not really up, not really down, just a kind of an even keel. And then obviously there are lots of businesses who are struggling or unfortunately are no longer with us. And having individual conversations, making sure that we're talking to our clients on a quarterly basis has been the biggest thing in 2020 to make sure that we're up to speed. So I would encourage you, if you haven't spoken with your banking partner in the last 3 months, reach out and just have an open and honest conversation, because they may have programs through the institution that can help you as you're budgeting into next year, and I'm sure they would be glad to do so.
And what are you seeing right now for operating reserves for most organizations? Is it across the board? I know for nonprofits like the Chamber of Commerce, they say normally if you have, a 3-month operating reserve that you are healthy, even just for a nonprofit organization. So what are you seeing any trends with operating reserves?
Definitely seeing operating reserves to the extent that the company still has the capital, holding that capital tighter than maybe before. They may have used cash in the past to invest in something. They're either putting that investment off a little longer or financing some equipment when they may not have typically financed. But yeah, I think that definitely seeing clients of all aspects hold on to their capital a little bit longer than they had been.
Good. Stacy, can you tell a little bit about some of the business frauds and scams that you're seeing that are coming out there, and what to look for?
I think with most of it, you know, everybody's looking for a quick buck. So I think, you know, just really paying attention to the your emails of what's happening and what's going on, and recognizing, are you hearing stuff about stimulus or, you know, the stimulus packages that went out to businesses that Christy was talking about. We have a lot of people that hear the word stimulus and they think that there's automatically money that's coming, or they get an email and click here. So we've seen a lot of fraud from an email capacity, where they're clicking on something and then all of a sudden their entire computer's frozen and things have been hacked into. So I think it's important to always just reach out to your banker to find out, hey, is this really happening? Because most of those are going to have to go through a bank. It's not going to be something that you're filling out on your own through an application process or anything of that nature. So we've just seen a lot when it comes to money. Everybody, I mean, and this goes in from a personal standpoint to the business standpoint. Unfortunately, you know, I've seen a lot of fraud in all aspects of personal lives and business lives, to the point where these fraudsters have cashier's checks that look just like cashier's checks that we would issue, or money orders for even from the postal service. And it's still fraud. And unfortunately, trying to explain that to clients across the board isn't always the easiest, because we all want our money and want our money now. And when we can't make that happen, it's never fun. And it's not, I mean, it's not a fun situation for us to be in either. And I wish there was a way to make a quick dollar, but unfortunately there's not. So
Speaking of quick dollars, I don't know those of you who had seen this, but in the state of West Virginia, and I'm not sure in Ohio if this is the same, but every year you have to file an annual report with the Secretary of State's office. Normally the deadline for that is June 30th, July 1st every year, and it's basically just updating your contact information, who your board of directors is, and the Secretary of State's office requires that for every business and nonprofit in the state of West Virginia if you're operating your business. And if you do it online, and most people do it online these days, you used to be able to do it hard copy, it costs $25 to submit that to the Secretary of State's page, and you do it online and you pay by credit card. There are some businesses out there that are sending out what look like official notices from the Secretary of State's office saying, you know, it's time to do your annual report filing with the Secretary of State, and they are going to charge you $125 to do that on your behalf. Yes, there, Terry just said in the chat, we received one of those.
Yeah.
So they will do that for you. It is not against the law for a third party to do those registrations for you, but they sure are deceiving and feel kind of sly and sneaky and scamish because you can do it yourself for a fifth of the cost of what, and normally most people have done that. So when people see those official looking letters come through saying it's time for your annual report with the Secretary of State, a lot of people, maybe there's been a transition in the organization, or just like you're saying, you've been working from home, suddenly get a hard piece of mail that looks like, oh, this is something official, I need to take care of this, just do it right now, get it done. And yeah, it does look very official, and off they're sending $125 for something that isn't due until June 30th, and that only could have cost them $25 online to do it. So those types of things, we try to make sure we're staying on top of those types of issues when our members, we had a member a couple weeks ago said, oh, I got one of these letters again. So a couple years ago, the Secretary of State really tightened down on that, and had one of those businesses refund a bunch of money to businesses that had paid it, because it was just scamish. I know it's not a proper word, just on the edge of being not legal and legal, or ethical. Maybe unethical is a more appropriate term than not legal.
More appropriate, yeah.
Yep. Well, anything else coming through on the chat? I don't see anything there. Any final thoughts? Oh, Trent?
So you mentioned social media. What social media platforms do you guys like to use?
So I am a big user of LinkedIn. I have found that to be very helpful during this time in particular. There's there's a lot out there on Facebook that can take you down rabbit holes if you allow it. So not saying that I'm never on it, but it is not my go-to for professional needs. I also am a really big fan of Twitter. So again, Twitter is one that can send you down rabbit holes. But it also is a great way to get a little soundbite out for the company and, be able to be shared multiple times. Using the right hashtags can lead you into a lot of good directions and really opening audiences. And then I also am an Instagrammer. So I like to follow companies on Instagram because of the storytelling. I think all of them have the stories. I am not a professional media guru, but personally, I like the Instagram stories because some of the smaller retail shops that I follow will post all of their, new inventory. And then restaurants will post menus of what they're serving for the week with a picture, and it just feels better than seeing something on like scrolling because you're watching the story. So that's Christy's personal preferences. Yeah.
So we obviously use a lot of email communications here at the Chamber of Commerce. So for your type of business, Trent, featuring client testimonials and success stories and the projects that you've worked on, and then have some type of call to action in the email, click here if you would like a free assessment of your project, or, different types of things to have a call to action so that people know how to reach you and that you have had success in the market with other clients. And photos of projects and activities that you guys have done, I think, is always a great way to communicate. And capturing email addresses or using a venue like through the Chamber of Commerce where it's going out, our e-blast system that we have, we allow that for our members to be able to send it out to fellow chamber members, and it's going to 1,500 plus people, and sometimes some of those may not be an immediate call to action where they're thinking, oh yes, I need to talk to them. But it'll be like, I remember seeing that e-blast last month, or I have a friend or family member who runs a business or has a project that needs some help with. And so you never can tell how one of those types of connections may result in some long-term opportunity and relationship.
And nobody said TikTok. I thought one of you guys were going to say something about TikTok.
I would have. Absolutely, yes. So I have a 2-year-old at home, and that's the only way I can get him to sleep is by watching TikTok videos. But it is, that's how I find, the coolest, latest, whether it's makeup product or something on Amazon that I don't need, but I think I need because that looked awesome on TikTok. That's how I find things. So, I'm not on Facebook. I have a Facebook, but I only used it for school for my kids last year. So I'm not really on Facebook. I do like LinkedIn. It's definitely a way for me to, meet different individuals, but TikTok is probably something that's going to catch my attention a little bit quicker sometimes. So catchy,
And that's more for a younger gen. That's more for would you say that's to age 25 or 30, or well,
I appreciate that if that was a compliment, but I think that there are definitely older people on there that that watch it. I'm 40, so I'm that 40-year-old mom on TikTok. So
all right.
Hey, the pandemic hit us all hard.
First feature on TikTok will be Trent at the Chamber of Commerce.
You never know.
No judgment here.
Well, we have just hit the 1 o'clock hour. Want to thank you guys very much. Any other final thoughts or anything today? And obviously we've got all the materials and all the information, and we'll make sure to have all your contact, and then we will share this on our Facebook page, being of social media. Share it on Facebook, and it will be included in our next, in the December events e-blast. We will have a recording of this as well that people can go back and watch it. So, and share the materials. But appreciate your time and expertise and talent today, ladies. Thank you so much.
Thank you. We look forward to doing this again when we can all be in person. And as we have different topics that come up that might be relevant for the member base, we'll be sure to reach out to schedule future ones, whether they're in person or virtual. But for those of you watching, please don't hesitate to reach out to Stacy or myself. We are just a phone call or email away to be a sounding board, to offer any advice that you might need, and we're here to help you as a partner. So thank you all for joining or for watching later, and we'll see you soon.
Thank you all very much.